Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
This transcendental vibration by chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the sublime method for reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual soul, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by material atmosphere. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in our complexities. This illusion is called Maya, or hard struggle for existence, for winning over the stringent laws of material nature. This illusory struggle against material nature can at once be stopped by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of living entity. When we hear the transcendental side. भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Mother, I'm the best answers. How are
For
you?
just $67, you can make as many videos
How are you doing?
and never.
I'm good. I'm thankful.
Yeah, we are
Happy to be
surviving
here
by
with
your
all of
mercy.
you. Happy to be here, Kusha. Thank you so much. I see so many familiar faces. Sahadev, Bhakta George, Gayatri. Haribo.
People are coming.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I will put the screen on the verse.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
I'll just chant a little bit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto, we're reading Canto 1, Chapter 9, text number 32. Text 32. So I'll just read the Sanskrit and then the verse. Shri Bhishma Uvacha Iti Mati Rupakalpita Vritrishna Bhagavati Satvata Pungave Vibhuni Swasukam Upagate Kavachit Vihartam Prakritim Upeshishi Yad Bhava Pravaha. I'm going to do the word for word translation because that is, part of how we do class. Shri Bhishma Uvacha, Shri Bhishma Dev said, Iti, thus, Matihi, thinking, feeling, and willing. Upakalpita, just a sec here. Okay, Upakalpita, Upakalpita is, Upakalpita. I can't see it on the screen. So invested.
Invested. Yeah.
Yeah, invested. That's a wonderful word. Invested. Vitrishna, freed from all sense desires. Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead. Satvata Pungave, unto the leader of the devotees. Vibhubni, unto the great. Swasukam, self-satisfaction. Upagate, unto he who has attained it. Kavchit, sometimes. Vihartam, out of transcendental pleasure. Transcendental pleasure. Prakritim, in the material world. Upye yushi, do accept it. Yat bhava, from whom the creation. Pravaha is made and annihilated. Bhishmadev said, and Srila Prabhupada's translation, Bhishmadev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which was so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world. Although for him, only the material world is, although from him only the material world is created. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because Bhishma Dev was a statesman, the head of the Kuru dynasty, a great general and leader of Kshatriyas, his mind was tuned over so many subjects, and his thinking, feeling, and willing were engaged in different matters. Now, in order to achieve pure devotional service, he wanted to invest all powers of thinking, feeling, and willing entirely in the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna. He is described herein as the leader of the devotees and all-powerful. Although Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, he himself descends to earth to bestow upon his pure devotees the boon of devotional service. He descends sometimes as Lord Krishna as he is, and sometimes as Lord Chaitanya. Both are leaders of the pure devotees. Pure devotees of the Lord have no desire other than the service of the Lord, and therefore they are called Sattvata. The Lord is the chief among Sattvatas. Bhishma Dev therefore had no other desires. Unless one is purified from all sorts of material desires, the Lord does not become one's leader. Desires cannot be wiped out, but they have only to be purified. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10:10 by the Lord himself that he gives his instructions from within the heart of a pure devotee who is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. Such instruction is given not for any material purpose, but only for going back home, back to Godhead. For ordinary man who wants to lord it over material nature The Lord only sanctions and becomes a witness of activities, but he never gives the non-devotees instructions for going back to Godhead. That is the difference in dealings by the Lord with different living beings, both the devotee and the non-devotee. He is the leader of all the living beings. As the king of the state rules both the prisoners and the free citizens. But his dealings are different in terms of devotee and non-devotee. Non-devotee never care to take any instruction from the Lord, and therefore the Lord is silent in their case, although he witnesses all their activities and awards them the necessary results, good or bad. The devotees are above this material goodness and badness. The devotees are above this material goodness and badness. They are progressive on the path of transcendence, and therefore they have no desire for anything material. The devotee also knows Sri Krishna as the original Narayan, because Lord Sri Krishna, by his plenary portion, appears as the Karnadaksha Vishnu, the original source of all creation, all material creation. The Lord also desires the association of his pure devotees, and for them only, the Lord descends to the earth and enlivens them. The Lord appears out of his own will. He is not forced by the conditions of material nature. He is therefore described here as Vibhu, or the Almighty, for he is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganagana Shalakaya Chakshu Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namashrite Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So if we can read the translation again, Bhishma is speaking. Bhishma said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing. My thinking, feeling, and willing. This is the translation of Srila Prabhupada, which was, so Bhishma is explaining that this thinking, feeling, and willing, he's expressing, it was so long engaged. It was so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties in the all-powerful Lord Krishna. He is always self-satisfied. Krishna is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending on the material world, although from him only the material world is created. So just in the text of Bhishma Dev, let's just look at what Bhishma Dev is saying. Now that he's on that deathbed and he's getting ready to leave his body, and Krishna has appeared to him. Krishna has physically appeared to him. So now he's saying his last words, and he's explaining. He said that now he wants to invest his thinking, feeling, and willing. He wants to invest everything that he is as a personality that was engaged in so many different kinds of activities. He was an administrator. He was a guide, a mentor. He performed so many. He was just engaged. He had that ras with Krishna, the chivalry ras. Actually, that was the real reason for Krishna and Bhishma Dev to have the relationship that they had. It was a ras that they were actually performing. And however, even though it was a ras, still Bhishma Dev was in a body, and so he was exhibiting certain kind of symptoms or certain activities that he was doing in that body. So now he's saying, okay, let me now invest my thinking. So his thoughts, normally in every human body, every human person, we are been gifted with the ability to think. So there's a psychological science that people are studying a lot now called critical thinking. So now there's a lot of emphasis on how we think and why we think and what are the reasons that we're thinking what we're thinking. So Bhishma Dev, he's showing us this critical thinking at the time of death. Critical thinking he is expressing is, in this case, is to focus his attention on Krishna. And so he says, now I want to give up all of these things that I had been doing. I want to give up all the different occupational activities. And so I just want to reflect a little bit here on, I'm going to do this only because this is one of my experiences of understanding this purport, is by having had the experience with His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, my spiritual master. And so I want to use his example to share some of what Bhishma Dev is experiencing here. And so Bhishma Dev, he's engaged in so many different activities. At the same time, he's fully understanding, he's fully aware that his mission and life is to serve Krishna. He's fully aware of that. And so now he's saying at death, I want to focus on that. And so there was a period, and keep in mind, Bhishma Dev is in a relationship with Krishna in chivalry. He's like his combat partner, the partner that he's fighting with. And so, however, when Bhishma Dev is on, so Bhishma Dev is on there lying on the bed of arrows, and he's making the statement. And similarly, when Bhaktitirtha Maharaj was leaving his body, there was a period where he went into what was called samadhi, where he actually disconnected himself from everyone, from all of the different devotees that were coming to visit him. And he said at that time that he was not a sannyasi, he was not a guru, he was not Bhaktitirtha Swami, he was none of those things, because his focus was fully on the fact that he had a relationship with Krishna, in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Bhishma Dev also is demonstrating to us that this is what happens at the time of death. All of us will need to recognize at the time of death that all of the things that we have been doing in the world are temporary things. And even though in the case of His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, he was serving the devotees as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, still he understood that, okay, now this part of that Leela of assisting people in the material realm was finished. Now he's entering into his actual relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's now going to physically be in that relationship with the Lord. And so Bhishma Dev, he's expressing this, okay? He's the example for us. He's saying, okay, this is what happens at the time of death. I'm giving this up now. I'm giving any thoughts, any thinking, any thoughts of things that I had done while I was engaged in serving those two families, the Kurus and the Pandavas. I'm giving up any occupation that I was engaged in. And he was engaged in a lot, because you know the story. He arranged marriages. He watched people he watched Draupadi, get accosted by Duryodhana. He watched so many different activities, and he himself was engaged in so many different activities. So we understand that he was letting that go, and now his attention is focused on Krishna. And so, as I was saying, every one of us will experience this at the time of death. And His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, who is someone that's so close to all of us, he showed us this example of, now I'm leaving all my disciples, now I'm leaving everything that I have been doing, in this realm, and I'm going to another realm. I'm leaving my physical body, I'm giving this up, and I'm going, I'm back in my relationship with the Supreme Lord. And so this is what he's saying. This is what Bhishma Dev is saying here. He said, Krishna, now he's going to tell us a little bit about Krishna. And he's explaining Krishna is self-satisfied. However, because Krishna is the leader of all devotees, so if we were ever wondering who is the leader of the devotees, who is actually our leader, we're so sometimes confused with all the different people in our lives and the leaders that we, take instructions from. However, the person that is the leader of all leaders, everyone's leader, is Krishna. So Bhishma is saying here that because he's the leader, even though he's self-satisfied. And so what does that mean, that he's self-satisfied? Prabhupada explains that so many different places in his books, that Krishna doesn't need anything. Krishna doesn't need anything from any of us. Krishna is within himself. He has all the opulences of everything, and he's fully opulent. And sometimes, Atmaram means he's self-satisfied. He simply, all of the pleasures that we think about is there within Krishna himself. And so Bhishma Dev is saying here that sometimes Krishna, as the original personality, as the leader, comes and, hey, Atma, Hare Krishna, and he enjoys transcendental pleasure. Krishna comes.
Hare Krishna, Raj.
He enjoys transcendental pleasure by coming into the world. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he personally comes into the world just so that he can associate with his devotees. One of the examples that we have right here is Bhishma Dev. He's associating with Bhishma Dev in that ras of chivalry, and absolutely for his pleasure, absolutely, totally his pleasure, and also for Bhishma's pleasure. And so Bhishma Dev is continuing to explain to us. He's helping us to understand. So Krishna comes sometimes in this material world just for us, just for the devotees. Of course, I can say for the pure devotees, because I'm aspiring to be a devotee. However, he comes for the devotees. And so although from him only the material world is created, so that there's many verses in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam that helps us to understand that everything comes from Krishna. Krishna says, I'm the seed-giving father. He also explains that, anyone that understands anything about the creation, how the creation is formed, they know that I'm that original person. Everything comes from me. So there's many different verses that helps us in this understanding that this world is created by the Lord. So if we had any, many times people are a little bit confused about the process of creation. And sometimes people don't know exactly how the process of creation has gone on. And so there's a lot of speculation about that. So here Bhishma Dev is explaining to us, okay, so he does come into the world. And because he comes into the world, then of course there are people that will not understand this. There are people that will not be fully aware or fully present to the fact that Krishna himself, that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even as we talked about earlier on that battleground, many people didn't know Krishna was God. So Bhishma Dev is explaining that, okay, he comes and he is the one that created this material world. And so now Prabhupada goes into the purport to explain to us some different points that helps us in this understanding of Krishna being self-satisfied. And so Prabhupada, he tells us about the first point that he makes here is that this thinking, feeling, and willing that Bhishma Dev is speaking about, he's explaining that that is that actually thinking, feeling, and willing has there's two ways we can look at that. We can look at it from a material perspective, where we are, every one of us, every human being is blessed with this thinking, feeling, and willing. However, how we utilize our thinking, feeling, and willing is different. It's different for the materialists than it is for the devotees. And so thinking, feeling, and willing for the materialists means I'm thinking about something that will be for my benefit or for the benefit of those persons that are the closest to me. I am feeling that in my body somewhere that I need to do these things. I need to act on these things. I want these things, whatever they may be, whatever the material conception may be. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be social, it could be economical. There's so many different areas where materialists think in terms of thinking, in terms of thinking, and in terms of feeling, how they want to act on that. What do they want to do? They tend to think, well, I want this so badly. I'm thinking of this thing, whatever it may be. Let's just say somebody want, I don't know, like a yacht, a big boat in the ocean. They just want to live on a big boat in the ocean. And so they think that, and they go through whatever they have to go through in material life, all kinds of fruitive activities in order to get that. Because that's their end goal. Their end goal is to get this big boat in the ocean. So they perform all kinds of austerities and they do all kinds of activities because they want that end goal. So their feeling is, I must get this end goal. I want this end goal. I will do anything possible for this end goal. And they're willing to go through whatever it takes to do that, whatever it takes. And we see that in material life. I mean, recently, we saw how the millionaires, the trillionaires, I think they are, how they went to space. And we talked about that last time because, they can do that. They have the money, they have the resources, they have whatever it takes to be able to do that. So their thinking, their feeling, their willing is based on their conception materially of what they can accomplish for themselves. And then on the other hand, there's the devotees who also are thinking, feeling, and willing. And we have here the example of Bhishma Dev, who is saying to us, okay, I was thinking, feeling, and willing in terms of all of in terms of these two families. I've been absorbed in everything with them, their life, their challenges, their conflicts, their everything. And now I want to change. I'm going to give that up. And I want to think, feel, and be willing only for that self-satisfied personality in my life, only for Krishna. Once again, I'll reflect on His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami. When he was leaving his body, one of the comments that he made that I believe it's like a sutra for anyone that's leaving their bodies is, it does not get better than this. It does not get better than this. Now, that statement is different for a materialist. For a materialist, they're afraid, like anything, of death. They're afraid of, exiting their body. However, for a devotee of the Lord, and most especially for someone that's directly representing the Lord in the role of a spiritual master, they're fully aware that their relationship is with the Lord. And so in that place where Bhaktitirtha Maharaj was in his Nirjan Bhajan, when he decided at a period, which was a couple of weeks before he left his body, something like that, when he said, I'm going into Nirjan Bhajan, I'm not going to be connecting with any of the devotees. And in that period of time, during that period of time, he emphasized many beauty of connecting once again with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of soul connecting, in terms of real connecting, in terms of connecting. And so he would share, like when he would share that, it doesn't get better than this, right? There were people that came to chant in his room while he was in the process of leaving after this Nirjan Bhajan period. And he was in ecstasy. He was just, his tears were tears of joy, not tears of sadness. So this is a difference. It's a difference with a materialist leaving and a spiritual person leaving their body. It's totally, totally different. And so here in this text, when Prabhupada says here that he's now Bhishma Dev is changing, he's moving, he's changing from that thinking of and willing of engaging in his material activities with the family that he's engaged in, with those families. He's now going to only think about Krishna. Now he's only want to be in that relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Prabhupada goes on to help us to understand a few more things about this point about Bhishma Dev going into this mood. He says in the purport, he says that, okay, he talks about Krishna being the original person and that Krishna comes. Because that's a part of what Bhishma Dev is speaking about in the purport, that Krishna is the original person and he comes to earth. That he comes, he descends on the earth upon his pure devotee, the boon of devotional service. So this is basically this purport. It's talking to us about devotional service and how that we need, that actually the devotees of the Lord, that in terms of understanding the desires that one may have, that Prabhupada says that desires may always be there. Desires are always there. However, desires are to be purified. And so how do we understand purification of desires? This is something that Prabhupada emphasizes in this purport, that in order to even understand how Krishna comes here on this planet for the benefit of his pure devotees, how he's enacting pastimes with his pure devotees, he comes to have different kinds of activities with his pure devotees. Like in this case with Bhishma Dev, he's fighting with, he's there. This is a battle, and he's having this ras of chivalry with Bhishma Dev. So he says there's so many of his pure devotees that come on this planet, and he himself, he actually sends so many of these devotees here so that he can interact with them. He can have some pastimes with them. And so I guess I wanted to ask you, who are some of the personalities that you know in the scriptures that Krishna came to interact with that were pure devotees of the Lord? Maybe you can write it in your chat, or, just a couple of people, like who, because when we talk about Krishna coming here for pure devotees, then that's a reality. So who are those persons that he came here for? Anyone want to share? I'm changing the style a little bit here. I know you're used to somebody just talking.
Meaning the scriptures?
Yeah, in the scriptures. Yeah.
The pure devotees in the scripture Krishna came for?
Yeah.
Sudama is a pure devotee. Krishna talked to Sudama. Sudama prayer.
Sudharma? Okay, how did he come for him?
Sudama was a poor man, a poor devotee, but Krishna accepted his devotion, though he doesn't have anything material.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Krishna came to interact with his devotee to show us, to teach us lessons, right? In that pastime, we learned that lesson, how Krishna makes himself available for everyone, whether someone is seen to be wealthy or not wealthy, or someone is, far away. In this case, Sudama had to travel, to meet with Krishna. Krishna is always available for everyone. At the same time, he's available for those, he reciprocates with those that are really reciprocating with him. So Sudharma was reciprocating with Krishna, and therefore Krishna made himself so available for him. Somebody else, I think, said, Devaki and Vasudeva. So yeah, Devaki and Vasudeva, Krishna came for them personally, right? Personally, Krishna made himself available so that he could perform that pastime the gopis, yes. He came, Madhavendra Puri, yes. Personally, Krishna came from Madhavendra Puri, where we have now all these beautiful pastimes to help us to understand bhakti, the process of bhakti. Yeah, so Krishna comes always to interact. What about Krishna also comes to interact with the demons? You know, Krishna comes and he liberates the demons, even those persons that are antagonistic to him, or even those persons that, you know, we would think, why would the Lord come here, you know, to have, you know, some relationship with them? Well, oftentimes Krishna comes just to have fun. And these are the people that he have fun with, the demons. You know, he danced on Kaliya's head. You know, he killed the snake demon just by wrapping his hands around him. He does all these activities because he's having fun. This is a part of his Leela, Jai and Vijay, yes. And yeah, now we're getting the Bali Maharaj. Yes, Ravana. So yes, Krishna comes. Specifically, he comes to have pastimes with his devotees. However, wherever there are the devotees, there's also the demons. So he's also going to participate with the demons. And this is important point that Prabhupada makes here in the purport for us to understand how the Lord comes. Mother Yashoda, yes, Namsa. Namsa is from South Africa. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful. And then there's some other points that Prabhupada is making in this purport that's important for us to understand. He talks about the materialist, having material desires. And then he says how Krishna deals differently with those that have material desires and his devotees. Now, someone could say, well, I'm aspiring to be a devotee. Draupadi, yes. Thank you, Salika. Yes, you came to definitely have that pastime so we can all see, you know, how ethics, like how Krishna himself, you know, showed us when Draupadi, okay, so I'm diverting back again because I saw Draupadi, when Draupadi finally called Krishna, how Krishna immediately came. So this is an example for all of us to know, to understand by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, that as soon as we call on Krishna, when we call Krishna's name, then Krishna immediately appears for us. Actually, I think it's in the CC that is explained that when we call Krishna, Krishna is dancing on our tongue. Krishna is always there as soon as we call him. So Draupadi, it's explained that she took she took some time to call him. And when she finally did call him and Krishna did appear, and she asked, why it took you so long? And he said, well, you just called me. Now you just called me. So we are so very fortunate that we have this mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we can be calling on Krishna, you know, all the time, 24/7. So this is a great benediction from Mahaprabhu. Anyway, so in continuing with some of the points that Prabhupada is making here for us to understand is how there's a difference between how Krishna deals with the non-devotees. Okay, so we're going to go back to Draupadi. You disagree with Draupadi's response because Draupadi actually scolded Krishna. That's the ras. That's the relationship. You know, there's 5 rasas that we can have with Krishna. And so when you have, there are different kind of rasas, and there's a ras where you can scold Krishna if you like. You know, Mother Yashoda scolded Krishna. Yeah, so that's once we understand that, once that ras is understood with those personalities, then we can understand. Oh yeah, that's why she did that. Oh, she did that because she had a relationship. And that's what's beautiful about Krishna consciousness, is we understand that there is a relationship that we have with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is what Bhishma Dev is helping us to understand. We have a relationship. He had that relationship with the Lord. So that point of how Krishna deals with non-devotees, Prabhupada explains in the purport that they never take care to take instructions from the Lord, the non-devotees. They don't take instructions. And we see this when we hear Krishna's pastimes and we hear about the demons, and we hear oftentimes they're instructed not to do certain things and they do it anyway. Or when we think of here on this, where we are in this material realm, we understand that people, oftentimes the Lord instruct people in the heart, because that's how Krishna talks to us. Krishna whispers in the heart. And oftentimes we are not present to be able to hear Krishna's whispers. And so therefore, and even when we can hear the whispers, sometimes we may not listen, because as Prabhupada said in the purport, this Krishna consciousness is progressive. It's not that immediately we start practicing Krishna consciousness, we are going to hear Krishna's whispers in our heart. It's a progressive path. And as we chant, and as we serve the devotees, and as we serve the spiritual master, and as we engage in pure, as our devotional service becomes more and more pure, as our thinking becomes more and more pure, as our feeling becomes more and more purified, more pure in terms of understanding our real relationship with the Lord, then we start really experiencing, oh yeah, this is what it's like to have this, relationship with Krishna. This is what, in terms of being willing to express, to others, oh, this is the relationship. This is how Krishna interacts with his devotees. So here Prabhupada says, but Krishna doesn't act in the same way with the non-devotees. He says the Lord when with the non-devotees, it's Krishna is silent. He's in the heart, but he's silent. Can you imagine that he's seeing all the activities. He sees everything that's going on. However, he only gives them the results of what they did good and what they did bad. So that's the law of karma. They're affected by the law of karma, the non-devotees. And so Krishna is sitting in their hearts also. However, the reason that Krishna is silent is because they don't listen. They can't hear the whisper. Why can't they hear the whisper? Why? Why is it that they can't hear this whisper of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart? Paramatma. Huh?
Because when we do kirtan, we are told to do loud kirtan, chant japa loudly. We don't whisper. So why does Krishna want to whisper to us when we make everything loud for him to hear?
Well, the devotees are so kind and so generous that they make it loud for other people to hear. That's the kindness of the devotees, because the non-devotees can't hear the whisper. They can't hear it. Devotees can hear the whisper, and that's the difference between the devotee and the non-devotee. Now, what is it that makes the non-devotees, not able to hear the whisper? The non-devotees.
Yeah, sinful activities.
Yeah, and what is it that causes them to be engaged in sinful activities?
Lust.
Yeah, and where does lust come from?
From greed and
yes, and so then it's important to understand how we in this material world, not us directly because we are aspiring to be devotees, non-devotees in the material world, they are directed, thank you, Kusha, by lust. And lust is actually a covering of one of the modes of material nature, isn't it? And so when we think of these, when we understand that the three modes of material nature is directing everyone, right? Everyone is being directed by the three modes of material nature, except when one becomes a devotee of the Lord, then they're not in any way bound by these modes of material nature. So the good and the bad for the non-devotees is coming from being engaged in one of the modes of material nature, or maybe all three of the modes of material nature. And so the modes of material nature affect the non-devotees and affect them in ways where they are engaged in fruitive sinful activities. So the Lord in the heart, he doesn't make himself so visible or so aware. He's not so aware, or the non-devotees are not so aware of him, because he is he's there. However, he's simply giving them the results of whatever activities they do. So that's why there was this statement sometimes that became very famous. Why does bad things happen to good people? Why does bad things happen to good people? Sometimes people are really good. And then it seems like, there's so many, like now I just got a message from someone to ask to pray for the people in Afghanistan. And I don't exactly know I thought I need to read and see what's going on in Afghanistan to understand. I'm not sure what's going on, to be honest. I was like, I need to know what's happening there. I'm supposed to be so involved in conflict. So I thought, okay, however, that was affecting that person so much that they requested prayer for those persons in Afghanistan. Now, someone can say, Krishna is in that person's heart, are in those people's heart. How is it that, why is it, that they may be suffering as much as maybe they are suffering? I'm guessing it's something around suffering of the people in Afghanistan. So why would that be the case? Why would that be the case? Why would anywhere? I mean, Afghanistan is just one place in the material world. But why would people be, in such a suffering condition, even though they're in the heart, even though Krishna is in the heart of everyone?
It looks like Krishna oftentimes doesn't interfere with material nature's activities, except in rare cases that he interferes. So he just looks on for material nature to do her own thing. But when there is the need for him to come in, he will come in. So that's my understanding.
Yes. Krishna, although he is the father of all living entities, he does not interfere with our independence. He does not interfere, even though it's explained in the Bhagavad Gita, I believe in the 7th chapter. 7th chapter really explains this verse so much. It's explained that he does not interfere with the living entities' independence. He gives us free will. And we can make choices, and those choices oftentimes are good or bad. And we're speaking again, it's very clear about the non-devotees. So they make choices that can be very detrimental to growing in a spiritual way, because they don't understand, they have no knowledge. And so Krishna gives them facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires, whatever it might be. He makes those arrangements for them. And so this is important in terms of understanding the non-devotees, those persons that, for whatever their reasons, they can't take shelter of the Lord. And Krishna explains, there's another verse for those of you that are scholars here. There's the verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says that Krishna, I think it's Bhagavad Gita 7:14, if I remember correctly. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. What does that verse say, Prabhu? Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Can't remember what it's saying right now, but I remember it. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. What's the English translation? My material energy is most difficult to overcome, but those who have crossed it. Yeah. Who was that? Who was that gave that? Was that Kavi Kanapur?
Salika.
Salika Prabhu. Oh,
Okay, Salika Prabhu. So what's the English translation?
Yeah, the English translation says that the divine energy of this divine energy of mine consists of the three modes of material nature. Oh shit, I can't remember the translation very clearly.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
I can try.
Okay. All right.
Deviesha Guna Mai Mama Maya Vrajalila. That is the divine. This energy is mine, and it's very difficult to overcome. But if you surrender to me, you can easily cross beyond it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. I love the scholars. Yes, I love when devotees can just like call those verses. Yeah. So then who can easily cross over it are those persons that are taking shelter of devotional service, those persons that are taking shelter of Krishna. Those persons can easily cross over this material energy. As Sahadev said, this material energy, this Maya, is Krishna doesn't really interfere. Krishna gives that post, he gives that work to Maya. She's doing her job, and she's doing an excellent job. And she keeps people really, definitely they're very confused in many cases about who they are. They have no understanding. And in most cases, they don't want to understand in many cases. And so this requires a lot of determination. So the purport is emphasizing, Prabhupada's purport is emphasizing desires. And he's emphasizing the desires of the non-devotees and the devotees, that they're very different. Devotees' desires are based on wanting to love, wanting to know, wanting to serve. That's the devotees' desires. The materialist, their desires is based on wanting to have, wanting to own, wanting to be the Lord, wanting to have every, material control. That's basically some of the differences between the materialists and the devotees. However, someone could say, but somehow as a devotee, as an aspiring devotee, I still have some material desires. I still have material desires. And so then Krishna, he explains, he says, yes, you may still have material desires. However, I am whispering in your heart, and I am helping you with those desires. I'm helping you. And all you need to do, all we need to do, not you, all we need to do is to be determined. That's it. If we can be determined. Now, determination is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. We can be determined in the modes of material nature. We can be determined, and I wanted to share that because determination is so key in changing our desires, in understanding what is our real goal, what is our real purpose. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, in text 33 says, so Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, and he says that determination, which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by practicing yoga, which is connected with Krishna, and which thus controls the activities of the mind. The life and senses is determination in the mode of goodness. Now, Prabhupada said that we at least need to come to the mode of goodness. So our determination needs to at least be in the mode of goodness, which means that our determination is unbreakable. Our faith is so strong that no one can deter us from Krishna consciousness. And we're so steadfast, even though we may get challenges like anything, we stay steadfast. I remember once Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, our spiritual master, wrote me a note, and he said, this was, I think I'd been a devotee maybe, 15 or 20 years. And he said, from here on out, it's all about perseverance, just persevering. Because I remember, I think I was experiencing some obstacles at the time or some challenges. And I was like, why is this going on? And he was like, now it's just about persevering. This is it. So the steadfastness is so key, it's so important, because we will be challenged, because we're in Maya's camp, No, even though we're aspiring to be devotees, we're still in this material energy. Our consciousness may not be in the material energy, but somehow our physical body may still be in the material energy. And so to persevere in Krishna consciousness is a gift. It's really a gift that's given by the spiritual master, given by the Supreme Lord. And it is in the mode of goodness. And then this one where Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, he says, but that determination, which holds you to fruitive results, right? And he goes on to explain more to Arjuna. He says, results in religion, fruitive results in religion, which is why Bhishma is saying, now I give up everything. I'm not even Bhishma, I give it all up. Now I'm going back. I want to just be present to that self-satisfied Lord, Atmaram, that Lord that comes for his devotees, comes to have activities with devotees. So Bhishma is now, he's fully realized in who he really is. And so Krishna is telling Arjuna, you got to give that up, fruitive activities with religion, right? And also economic development. So yes, we know that we are engaged in Yukta Vairagya, engaging everything in Krishna's service. At the same time, we need to be very conscious and very aware how we're engaging everything in Krishna consciousness. How are we doing that? Is it really 80% for Krishna and 20% for me? Is it 70% for Krishna and 30% for me? We need to become aware of how we perceive economic development or how we are engaging in economic development. And sense gratification. So he's saying to Arjuna, he said also this, if you could be determined, you could be really determined. However, if your person is determined for sense and with sense gratification in mind, or their desires for sense gratification, then he says, this is in the nature of passion, O Arjuna. This is somebody being passionate. And so Krishna says we have to come to the mode of goodness in order to really start experiencing transcendence. So then we understand, okay, if I have desires and I'm moving, I'm kind of somehow still have some effects of the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion or the mode of goodness, then Krishna says those desires will become purified once one takes to chanting the holy names of the Lord. Even though those modes are there, however, as soon as a person takes to chanting the holy names of the Lord, that purification process starts. And that purification process, is explained like a fan, right? We hear that in the very beginning of Krishna consciousness. It's like a fan. You plug it out, but somehow it's still going a little bit. It's still going, but Krishna is there for us. Krishna is there because we have unplugged the fan of material energy. We have said to Maya, no, Maya, I'm okay. I got it. You're here, and I got that you're here to let people become so confused that at some point they just give up. They just give up, and they're like, okay, there's got to be something else. There must be something else. Well, as devotees, we've already given that up. We've already come to that point. We've already okay, there's got to be something else. And moving forward for us, it's just Krishna and Krishna with his associates, with his devotees helping us. So Bhishma Dev is one of those associates that's helping us. Our spiritual masters are those associates that are helping us to stay firm, to stay fixed, to stay steady in our devotional practices. And then the last understanding of determination is for us to understand how there's determination also in the mode of ignorance. We can be determined. And Krishna says to Arjuna, oh, best of the Bhartas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of, and he says, and that determination, which can go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. He says that such unintelligent determination, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of darkness. So this kind of, we have so many desires, as I was sharing, and those desires can only be fueled based on our determination. And we need to check our determination. Is it in the mode of ignorance, passion, goodness? And devotees are above these modes, which is interesting. We read about the modes, but devotees, because they're chanting the holy names of the Lord, because they're taking shelter of the Lord is giving them full protection, even though they may be experiencing some shadows of these different modes of material nature. So then Krishna says that then in this purport that Prabhupada is speaking about, he gives us examples of those pure devotees. He said that, okay, so I deal differently with my non-devotees. Yes, you may be on the progressive path and you may still, have some shadows of some of these modes. However, I'm fully present for you because you've heard the whisper. You've heard that whisper. And yes, it might be, it might be a little bit challenging, but persevere. Bhakti Tamara says, just persevere, just persevere. As we persevere, the Lord becomes visible. Bhakti Tamara says, it does not get better than this. It does not get better than this. This comes from the perseverance, right? And of course, Bhakti Tamara is the pure devotee of the Lord. He's teaching us, he's sharing with us, like Bhishma Dev, he's sharing with us. Even though we could say, well, Bhishma Dev seemingly had all these different experiences in his life. He did so many things that seems not ethical in many ways. It appears like that. At the same time, Bhishma Dev was protected by the Lord's internal energy. It's protected by the Lord. And so devotees are also protected by the Lord. And therefore, we want to explore and see, just like Narada Muni. Narada Muni, at some point, he saw Krishna, and then Krishna disappeared. And then Krishna spoke within his heart and told him, he said, look, I'll come back. You'll see me again. You'll see me again once you get free from all your different material desires, right? Even though Narada Muni is doing everything on behalf of the Lord, but still, Krishna says, I'll come back to you. And then there's the pastime of Ranti Dev. If any of you know that story, I'm sure you do, how compassionate, how he showed his compassion, Ranti Dev. So many different people came to him when he's getting ready to break his fast. And he just, gave everything that he was going to eat and drink, these different personalities that came at different times. He's going to eat this, whatever he was going to eat to break his fast, whatever. And he was so fully absorbed in the Supreme Lord, doing all the services that he was doing at that time, giving up all his prasadam to these different personalities, who in the end turned out to be who? Who were those personalities that came to test Ranti Dev?
Devas and great personalities.
Shiva, Brahma, and who again?
Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. And then there was the poor person that seems like
I think there was Agni Dev also, the fire god.
Anyway, these personalities, they just was testing Ranti Dev to show us how fixed and steadfast Ranti Dev was in his desire to please the Supreme Lord, and his detachment from those things that is necessary actually for the body. He was so compassionate, so caring, that he was able to just give that away, get away, And this is, of course, another level of understanding that kind of, relationship with the Lord. However, these relationships are there to teach us, to help us. And so in that, I'm going to close with this in terms of understanding our desires and the modes, how the modes affect people. It's for us as devotees to understand when we're teaching others, helping others, preaching with others, just to understand how they may be affected by the modes of material nature. And for us to also be reminded that our determination, although we're on the boat, so to speak, and although we are accepted by the Lord, although we have heard the whisper, that whisper becomes activities to the degree that we are determined to focus our desires completely on the Lord, to the degree that our thinking, feeling, and willing becomes completely absorbed in the Lord. Now we could say it's not so easy for that to happen. We see in our ISKCON organization, we have all kinds of challenges, which is true, we do. However, the important thing to remember is that everyone that has come to ISKCON that is chanting the holy names of the Lord, even if they chanted once, they are protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We need to never forget that. Otherwise, we get caught in all the different, ways that Maya arranges different things. And we need to always remember every devotee is protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm going to stop there for any of your comments, any things you want to share. Very excited to share with all of you.
Thank you, Mother. I will have one question on Draupadi. is resisting on calling on Krishna. Maybe she doesn't have full faith that Krishna will come. That was why she was wasting time to call on Krishna. But we only see the angle of her depending on Krishna with two hands raised up. But we never really talk about what if she was doubting if at all Krishna will come and save her or not.
Well, I don't want to speculate about Draupadi. I can only speak from my own realization. And I can share in terms of understanding those very deep relationships. I can share from my relationship with my spiritual master. And I remember that there were times in my life where I was really challenged. And my spiritual master was not the first person I thought to call. You know, I reached out to people that were around, which Draupadi, that's what she did. She tried to get some help from all the people that were around her at the time, those persons present. And she may not have just thought about calling, because, you know, in her relationship with Krishna, of course, Krishna is, she understands Krishna as a supreme personality, you know, and so generally, as a form of etiquette, at least that's kind of how I always thought of my spiritual master. I would go to my spiritual master when it just got like, oh yeah, I can't take this anymore. This is way above my head. It's just too much. I can't deal with this. And then I called the spiritual master, like, help. However, before that, I would definitely go seeking out, you know, help from other people. So I don't know. I can't speculate about Draupadi. Draupadi is a pure devotee of the Lord, and those pastimes that these devotees enact, you know, for our benefit to teach us, is to make us faithful and to keep us, to let us not have doubts, even though doubts are there because, you know, our fan is still kind of, you know, going. Yeah, the fan is still going. So the doubts help us really to become more fixed and more steadfast. And especially when we express our doubts, there's nothing more valuable than expressing our doubts. You know, I was sharing one yesterday. I do work. I see you, Saham, coming. I do work sometimes with people, and you know, I do a lot of forgiveness work. Try to help people to forgive, because things happen, you know, in our lives. And you know, oftentimes we hold on to those things, and those things, you know, they actually affect our determination in trying to understand Krishna. So one of the things that, one of the areas that I try to help in terms of forgiveness is to understand something basic, like, what are some of the ways that you judge yourself? What are some areas you judge yourself, you know? And so let's explore that. What are some areas I judge my own self? You know, do I judge myself that, you know, oh, I'm not fully fixed in understanding, you know, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness? And then if I have that thought in my head, then, you know, how does that reflect in my behavior? How does that reflect in my thinking, feeling, and willing? So so again, back to Draupadi. Yes, I can't say why Draupadi didn't first call on Krishna. There may be a philosophical understanding to that. However, right at this moment, I'm not thinking about what it could have been. Haribol Sahadev. Or if anybody else, just Kusha, do you know the philosophical reason for why Draupadi didn't call on Krishna right away? Because you ask questions that you know the answer for.
Yeah, I think it's because pure devotees naturally doesn't ask for any help from the Lord.
Okay.
In that service.
And Yabilasita Sunyam.
Only at extreme period they can request for something.
Okay, yes, that's Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami's disappearance is tomorrow. Rupa Goswami has given us the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, and the first verse in there is about the pure devotees, Anyabilasita Sunyam. So yes, that's a beautiful way of explaining that Draupadi, you know, yeah, she have full faith. At the same time, she doesn't ask for anything material. Interesting. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Kusha.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Mother. Well, thank you for giving the class. It's beautiful. And I think Krishna, of course, always is so expert that you happen to be the speaker on this particular text, because when I read it, the first thought I had was about Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, because I remember when he told all of us in the temple room, today is the last day you're going to see me, you're going to hear from me. I'm going into a new Jana Bhajan. So it's the same thing Bhishma Dev is telling us here. But my question is still on Bhishma Dev. Externally, Bhishma Dev did so many things that are very, very inappropriate for somebody of his caliber. Yet internally, he was never affected by any of such seemingly negative things he did, because Krishna was using him. Now, in our own personal lives, how do we and when do we say that, okay, this Maharaj, this Swamiji, this advanced devotee is acting this way, which is inappropriate, but that is what Krishna wants him to do. So we just give respect to that. Or when do we say that, no, this is very unbefitting for somebody like this. Why would he do that? And then we try to address it. So how do we know whether what this person is doing, even though it's negative, is okay, and that we just stay quiet? Or this person is doing something negative, he's not supposed to be doing things negative like that. So let's intervene to see how much we can help rectify the situation. When do we tell? And how do we tell?
Yeah, that's a eternal ISKCON question. Because as we're in this process of purification, there's always things that we are unfolding. There's always different unfoldments that we're having. And there's always new or different awareness, just like Bhishma Dev, he was doing all these things, but then at the time of death, he had that awareness that I just want to be with my self-satisfied Lord. That's it. None of these other things matter. So when it comes to making decisions in terms of where people are at in their purification process, I think some of it is definitely, according to our nature. So like Arjuna, he's a Kshatriya, he's a fighter, and so although he doesn't want to do this activity, which appears to be negative, because he takes guidance from the Lord, he takes guidance from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he's able to make a decision. So guidance, mentorship is very important in Krishna consciousness, especially decisions regarding right and wrong, because really in Krishna consciousness, there's no really right and wrong, bad or good, not really. It's simply people are unfolding in their purification process. The fan is stopping maybe slower for some people than others. And so according to our nature, we may approach it differently. A Brahmin will approach it through scriptures and through perhaps expressing scripturally what that person may be doing, and try to reach the person through the scripture. A Vaishya may approach it through different kind of activities, acting in a certain way, then if that the person has that kind of nature, they may try to show by their example, you know, okay, don't do this, because they show they're like going to do something differently to make that person aware. And then a Kshatriya often may confront, you know, Kshatriya may confront. That's the nature of Kshatriyas. And confrontation can be helpful. However, in confrontation, it's very important to be able to understand a language that will create, as Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, the best result, which means walking in the other person's shoe. So a Kshatriya, it's helpful. It's helpful for a Kshatriya type person nature to really practice, to really learn communication skills if they're in leadership. Really key, because otherwise what they tend to do is try to make things right according to their perception, according to their understanding, which may not always be the case. It may not always be what is, it may, sometimes Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says you could do the right thing and go about it in the wrong way. So Kshatriyas need to learn how to speak generally. I see in our movement, those that have maybe that kind of nature, that it's important. The austerity of speech in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is very important for a Kshatriya. And then a Sudra type person, they just don't care, you know, it's like, okay, whatever, that's what you're doing. And sometimes a Sudra type person really could be fully dependent on Krishna, like Krishna will just take care of it, you know, like, okay, that's what you're doing, Haribo, you know, Krishna's going to take care of it. So it depends on the nature of the person, really. However, there's one principle that holds true for anyone with any nature, is really communicating in a way that we create connection as opposed to disconnection. So whatever we address, if our perception is that it's bad or it's good or it's right or it's wrong, whatever, we want to get the result that we have made a connection with that person. And sometimes it means maybe going through another person, maybe getting a mentor, like Arjuna taught us, have a mentor. That's key. That's very key in how we address these issues. I saw it to one of my South African girls. My South African girls are here. Not my South African girls. These South African girls are here. I'm just so happy to see them. Is that okay, Saha?
Very much, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Next question is from
Kavi Kanapur?
Kavi Kanapur, yes.
Yeah, I see Kavi.
Thank you very much, Ma. I was just trying to bring your attention again back to, you mentioned about somebody writing you to pray for the Afghanistans. And that was just going through my mind because yesterday also I was listening to Joe Biden, the president of America, and he was just making a statement about why the America has to leave Afghanistan. And we can see that the Taliban, they want to establish a strict Islamic kind of consciousness in the country. And America were fighting back because they want the people to live a liberal life. So which one will you think that is right? Somebody is here. He wants somebody to live a strict life, women covering all their faces. Women cannot come into public with where men's are. And other people, they want a liberal life where people can wear short skirts and all this. So who do you think that is fighting a religious fight?
Well, the religious fight. So if every tradition have religious principles, every religion has their traditions, and you know, Krishna is kind in every religious tradition. And so if a person is following religiosity according to their religious principles, then of course they have, you know, they're given reciprocation from the Lord. There's no doubt. It may not be the same kind of reciprocation as a devotee of the Lord. And somebody that's acting in the modes of passion, ignorance, even maybe goodness, without no understanding of religiosity, no understanding of spiritual principles, then that person is simply under the modes of material nature. And so philosophically, we understand that Krishna reciprocates more with those that are following religiosity, in at least following the principles of religion, at least having some understanding that God is great. God is great. Now, in terms of the nuances of the different ways that people express culture and tradition, that have caused havoc and conflict throughout the world, because everybody do that. That's one of the things that was expressed today in the verse, that religiosity is often used as a methodology for justification of cultural things that are really not very nice. There's some cultural things in many religious traditions that it really kind of affects humanity in so many ways. So we want to be, as devotees, we want to understand if how the modes of material nature affect people, and Krishna says, unless someone is chanting the holy names of the Lord, taking shelter, the process of Krishna consciousness, they're affected by the modes. They're affected by the modes. So for me to say, okay, somebody practicing some kind of religiosity and sincerely practicing, let's say a sincere practitioner in their religious, they're not just practicing religiosity to advocate some cultural norm. Let's say they're practicing because they really want to love and know God, right? Krishna will appear to them eventually through some devotee. If such a person, if people are practicing in that way, then of course they get the mercy of the Lord. They get the mercy of the Lord. Now, whether or not, I'm not sure about the nuances of the Taliban in terms of, or that religious sect, whether they are sincerely following religiosity. I don't know. I haven't studied. I have to study and research to be able to say yes. I've lived in Muslim countries myself, as you know, and I know that there are cultural things that, can be very harmful to human beings, just as materialists, gross materialists, are harmful to human beings. So the point is to understand how people are affected by the modes of material nature, even in religiosity. All people. And Kali Yuga is such that everybody will be affected one way or another, everyone. So those persons that are trying to hold on to, the essence of religion, which is to love God and to serve God and to, serve humanity, then of course, whatever principles that they're living by, those principles will hold true. Because at the end of the day, that's what's gonna survive Kali Yuga, is the principles, the essence of spirituality, which is to love God. At the end of the day, that's what's going to bring in the next yuga. I hope that was okay for you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, as a person that addresses conflicts, it's very important to be impartial, because because there's always two sides, and sometimes a lot of times three sides, and that's and then for a person that's aspiring to be a devotee of the Lord, we understand it philosophically that people are just in the modes, basically.
Because the war has gone for 20 years. They have been dragging here and there, fighting. So when you see when the people were trying to escape the country, how they fell from the American spaceship and what, it's very horrific,
Yeah, it's unfortunate that materialistic people are kind of ruling the world, in many ways. However, those persons that are sincerely adhering to their spiritual principles, they are protected for sure. No doubt. That's what I understand from our philosophy.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Hare Krishna. Haribol Saha. Or did
Hare Krishna.
did your hand still up, or did you just not take it down?
I just raised up my hand.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for the way you answered Kavikant Prabhu's question. I think, well, I think you did justice to it, because as a society, ISKCON society, we don't really take sides of such political mess. All we do is we try to look at things from our scriptural point of view. Like you rightly said, somebody may have determination, which is a very important tool in spiritual life, but that determination could be in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of goodness. So some people may be determined in following the religious rules, but what about if they're following it in the mode of goodness, they're following it in the mode of ignorance? Like, actually, just today, I listened to Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada was saying he faced lots of criticisms when he came to the Western world to establish ISKCON, because until Srila Prabhupada came to the West, no women were allowed to live in the ashram. No, but he did that, and he faced lots of scrutiny. But in the end, he was glorified. Like we saw, now he's being glorified everywhere. So, like you rightly said, sometimes our determination, our sincerity may be born out of ignorance. And that is why we need those who are advanced to guide us. Yesterday, Brahmatirtha Prabhu gave class, and he was sharing with us about one Mataji called Kaushika, who went to hell for speaking the truth. She spoke the truth, but because her speaking the truth resulted in the loss of lives, she had to go to hell for that. And so even speaking truth is, like we always say, you always have to speak the truth, but it has to be governed by the mode of goodness. Because if I am 95 years old and a 35-year-old man comes to me and asks me, "Hey, old man, did you see anybody run into your room?" I say, "Yes." And then it's true that a young guy ran into my room for protection. I'm 95 years old. I cannot fight this 35-year-old strong man. But if I said to this young man, "Yes, he ran into my bathroom," and then goes to the bathroom, catches this guy, kills him, that is what happened to Kaushika. So I appreciate your answer, and I am suggesting that we stay away from political questions, if possible. Hare Krishna.
A verse I as you were sharing, Saha, I was thinking of, because Bhagavad Gita, answers all of our questions, really. Krishna explains everything to Arjuna. And yes, as we all study Bhagavad Gita, we get to the essence of what Krishna wants us to understand. And yeah, thank you for that comment. There's a verse that I just saw. It says, among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. And of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence. and of the wise, I am the wisdom. So so when I saw that verse, I was thinking, yeah. So ultimately, whatever may be happening, with the Americans and the Afghanistans or whatever's happening in the world, there's always some conflicts. This is material world. The ultimate personality that is directly taking control of every situation is Krishna, whether he's doing it through the agent of Maya, or whether in terms of his pastimes, he shows us, how he punishes the demons. So Krishna is so magnanimous that he has these energies. He has his material energy that does all that work. And then he has, of course, his eternal energy, the energy of who he is, Yogamaya. And so within the material energy, then Krishna has arranged the proper punishment for all of the personalities that are acting in the modes of material nature. That's been arranged. And we can't get around that. Whoever we might perceive to be right or wrong or bad or good, there's punishment for everyone. And we are so very fortunate, so very fortunate that we are out of that mix. We're not in that mix. If we can just be grateful. Yeah. So I have one of those questions from George, and I'm just so excited to hear from him. So can I see that question again, George, or would you like to share it yourself? George is on the leadership thing.
Okay, George is saying, Hare Krishna Mother, in this age of Kali, we know that most of our leaders didn't go through training. And as devotees, we have the knowledge now. Why are we so deterred from such position? Meanwhile, devotees can do it better. And so his question, if I understand his question, his question is, most of our leadership in this age of Kali do not have any training, like spiritual training. And we as devotees have the knowledge of how to govern. So why are we deterred from pursuing such positions?
Okay, thank you, George. I love your questions. All of the devotees, yeah, it's amazing. All of you ask questions that's just like, churns. So as far as I understand, I came to Krishna consciousness in 1979. And at that time, from what I was told, Srila Prabhupada encouraged devotees to take up different kinds of positions in the world. Actually, there was a devotee that lives now in Florida. He's a senior Prabhupada disciple. I think his name is Rupanuga. Can't remember. That was actually running for, I can't remember if it's mayor or he might have been a mayor. He was actually involved in politics. So it's not that I don't think that was Srila Prabhupada's initiative that people don't engage in those activities. I do know, though, that Prabhupada, my understanding is that Prabhupada wanted devotees first and foremost to focus on becoming spiritually steadfast, spiritually responsible, spiritually mature. And then when devotees were more fixed in their determination to be faithful to the path of bhakti, then he would encourage them to engage in these different activities. So yeah, I don't think there's anything that says someone shouldn't do that. It's just that devotees may not do it because it's very delicate. It's delicate to be among the non-devotees. It's delicate. Even when we're preaching, even when we're teaching to others, we see how delicate it is. We can get easily influenced if we're not like mature devotees. And that's why, as Sahadev said, guidance is so important. We all need to have guidance. We all need to have mentors, because yeah, our determination can waver. Material energy is strong. Bhakti Maharaj used to say, don't minimize material energy. We just get caught up, in all the different fads and the different things that's going on, materially speaking. And we forget sometimes what our real purpose is. And so that we need reminders constantly. I need reminder constantly. So like, for example, for my birthday. So I had a choice on my birthday. I could have, stayed at home and just do my solitary thing, which is normally where I tend to want to do more than anything else. And I just had a birthday. Or I could go around friends and be in the atmosphere of being with friends that I could be inspired by. And so I chose to be around friends. And I chose to go to the home of Sahadev and Loka to celebrate my birthday with their children, because I really have so much affection for their children, their boys. And so, we always can make a choice, right? We always make a choice. So I could have made that choice to not do anything for my birthday, or I could have made a choice to go. So similarly, devotees can make choices to engage in different kinds of activities in the material world or not. It's their choice. And so I had this very wonderful celebration with Loka and Sahadev and their 4 children.
Mother, I'm sorry to interrupt. You named Sham, so he is very adorable to you. So I think you came here purposely because of him. But
Well,
thank you for blessing us, Mother.
Well, Sham has a place in my heart, but all your boys do, and of course you and your wife do for sure. So so anyway, the point I'm making is, that was just a little thing, right? I could have made a different choice. I could have chose something else. That's what I chose, because for me, that's how I knew that I would be happy. I knew I would be happy by doing that. So sometimes devotees might not choose things that even they can do because they know it might not make them happy in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So I guess that's my answer, George. But I mean, however, if you have that kind of inclination to be the president of Ghana, go for it. And you get the support of all the devotees to help you, or any position in Ghana, that you can make a difference and make sure you're surrounded by ministers that are devotees. Go for it. Why not?
I will be his finance minister. I love the money.
as long as you're using it in Krishna's service and you don't forget, sometimes devotees forget, right? I once knew a devotee that said, I just got to go and, earn this amount of money and I will be back and I'm going to bring it back to the temple and and I just need to go and do. The devotee was like a musician. And the devotee said, I just got to go do my music and I'm going to make all this money. And because the devotee was very professional, and I'll bring this money back. But that never happened. So we got to be a little bit careful. always take, like this verse is saying, always take instructions. Don't forget that, whatever we do. Check in.
We have Salika Prabhu send up. Prabhu?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mother, thank you very much for
a
wonderful class, the sharings of the realizations. I like so much your narrations of the your realization, Guru's instructions when he joined 1979. It's always good when you hear practical experience. It actually touches the heart because it's a life experience, and then hearing it directly from the person involved has a lot of effects. Thank you very much for that. But I just wanted to comment a little bit on what Dr. Joy's question, talking about why devotees don't want to so keen about getting. I think this question has come up several times on the Zoom platform about why devotees don't want to take up roles in the public since we have the knowledge. But I think that, in my opinion, it is not wrong that we take up leadership roles. But I think the greatest challenge is that, are we really ready, or are we really qualified to take leadership role? Are we really trained? Because for one to be able to actually administer public administration, a high level of qualities of Vanashram dams qualities must be there. And then we see in our own movement, even though we have all of the spiritual knowledge, we have all of the spiritual solutions, but we've not been able to adequately implant this in our day-to-day running of our ISKCON movement. So it becomes a little bit difficult to be able to actually affect the larger society. So I think that it is nothing wrong in being taken political, even though it seemingly looks dangerous. But apart from being dangerous, I think the first and foremost thing is that as a devotee community, we've not come to that platform yet where we have that level of exemplary leadership management that we can share with the society, even though we have the knowledge, but we've not been able to imbibe them to that extent whereby we can share it with others. And because we don't have that, I think it's not something that we can really be encouraged to go into for now. And maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but this is my thinking.
Well, yeah, it's important that we put on our mask first. We need to protect ourselves first. That's the famous adage from the airline, right? When you're in an airplane, you know, with other passengers, and you know the airplane is going to go down, make sure you put your mask on first before you put it on for anybody else. So that principle holds also there, is very clear in spiritual life. Before we can care for others, we need to care for ourselves. So yes, if we're not spiritually mature, if we're not spiritually fixed, if we're not steadfast, as we read in the purport today, then it can be dangerous to go into the material realms, because material, Maya don't play. She has no, just like Krishna has no favorites, she has no favorites. You know, so yes, so it's very important, as I was sharing, that if one has that kind of inclination, that nature, that they would like to, you know, help society in that way by giving spiritual principles, then it's important that they have a cadre of ministers around them that will support them, you know, because in terms of material management and training, that's not so difficult for a devotee. I mean, I've seen devotees, you know, they go back to school and they finish 4 years in 2 years. You know, they do all kinds, because devotees are super, you know, they have this super intelligence because they're empowered by the spiritual master and Krishna. So I see that they can learn sometimes secular things like so quickly, you know, like the kids can tell you, right? They sometimes think they're wasting their time being in school because, you know, they know so much. Devotee kids, you know, they have so much understanding. So material management knowledge is not something so difficult to have. What's really difficult is to be able to use that material knowledge, that secular knowledge, and offer that paradigm, offer the spiritual paradigm with that material knowledge. And Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj, again, he wrote several books to help us with that, you know, in terms of understanding leadership from a place of the, at least even if we look at the mode of goodness, you know, he gives us so many principles for that. So the fact that devotees are not, you know, not managers in or administrators in the secular environment, it may simply just be because they may not be convinced that it's something they want to do. So devotees are more than qualified to do it, for sure. I don't think it's that devotees aren't qualified. No, I don't think that. I think it's just that they may choose not to do that because they understand the effects of material energy. And even in our own society, we may say that we're challenged by management. We may say that. Really what I see is we are challenged by our own internal purification, our own material conditioning. However, when a person is aware of their material conditioning and their limitations and their strengths, I see that they can become really great managers in ISKCON. Yeah, and so yeah, for that, we have an organization that we are building now. It's an initiative actually, and it's called ISKCON Hearts. ISKCON Hearts, H-E-A-R-T-S, ISKCON Hearts. And we will do our first program very soon to introduce to the devotees how important it is to understand emotional care. Because leadership, what we find now, why we are challenged a lot in management, in leadership or administration, is devotees may not quite know how to balance, their physical understanding of things with their emotional understanding of things, as well as their spiritual understanding of things. They might be a little bit, because not understanding that, because a lot of times what we have in our institution is people that come, and some people, they come from backgrounds, childhood, where they never actually got emotional care. Emotional care is something that's there's a deficiency in emotional care, especially when people want to be leaders. Oftentimes that's not there for them. So what we are requesting, is if someone wants to be a leader, then they definitely need to have that training of understanding, the subtle body and how the subtle body works and how it works with other people. And we see that sometimes with parents. Parents, if their parents didn't express emotional care for them, and just out of lack of knowledge, then that parent will also be like that with their children, and their children will probably be like that. There are just basic things like Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj introduced for many of us, the hug, right? Physical hug. And many people had so much difficulties, devotees don't hug. Why are you hugging? That's not Vaishnava. It's not Vedic, He would do it anyway, only because he was trying to remind us that we're human beings caring for each other, So of course, sometimes that got misunderstood. And sometimes, just like it's recommended not to study the 10th canto because we might still have lusted desires. So similarly, hugging people, we might still have lusted desires, and that could definitely affect us in some ways. However, the essence of what a hug means is a connection, just to connect more from the heart. And so, so in that way, those are some areas where we may be lacking, but definitely not in terms of, I think not in terms of administrative skills, more in terms of how to apply the skills. Application, that we have some challenges with. I was long-winded with that, Salika Prabhu. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, I have one question from the papers. Can I ask you?
Yes, please, Kusha. Yes, please.
I will share the papers on the screen. You see, in this paper of today, it has a Bhagavad Gita link, the papers.
Okay.
Gita 10:10. I will open it also. So here, Krishna is saying, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding back which can come unto me. So my question is on this paper, on this translation. He gives understanding to devotees who are constantly serving him with love. to come to him. But he never gave understanding to devotees who are constantly serving him on how to interact with one another, on common sense. Like we raise a project, I should give you a feedback. I don't give you feedback. I think everything is okay. And I think that the project has been executed. No communication, no, these are common sense. Why doesn't Krishna give understanding to common things as devotees to interact, even in management, even devotee association? No intelligence in that angle. Only to come to him, he gives intelligence. So it's like where we are presently, we are not perfectly living here to practice how to live in the spiritual world. And we are flying to a spiritual world to go and do what? To go and fight? So my question is, why is Krishna not giving intelligence on how to relate to one another in the material world, among, it is in community of devotees only, not material world, among devotees? We have so much ego, so much pride. If not me, this can be done. Why must it be him or her? Why don't we lack such intelligence? And then Gita 10:10 is telling us he gave us intelligence to come to him. When we are fighting here, how can we go to him?
Thank you. Thank you. That's why Krishna spoke that to Arjuna, right? So let him know, okay, I'm giving you that, and this intelligence must be there, right? For you to come to me. What's the goal? What's the goal? So even in our fighting, Kusha, most devotees do have an understanding of that goal. They know, okay, I'm fighting right now. All this chaos is going on, all this conflict. Ultimately, though, I'm meant to be with Krishna. I'm meant to be in the spiritual world. And many devotees do have that. Maybe it's theoretical, and maybe they don't have the practical application. Once again, I want to go back to the practical application. So it's not that Krishna doesn't give us how to, these practical applications. I mean, when we read the Krishna book, we can see Krishna, he's organizing so many different things all the time. And he's showing his devotees, for example, I think, I don't know if it's this class, maybe it's this class, it's this forum, or maybe it's another forum, I'm not sure. I was sharing about the, how when Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, if it's this forum, you can stop me. When Krishna's father was getting bitten by the snake Vidahara, Krishna, he was teaching us by the example right there. Okay, this is my father, but yet he's getting attacked. He's getting attacked, right, by a snake. So how does everybody respond in that situation? What does everybody do? And so everybody was like screaming and carrying on, like, oh my God, Nanda Maharaj is going to get attacked, da, 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 da. And Krishna showed that, okay, yeah, there's all this chaos going on. However, Nanda Maharaj, what did he do? He called Krishna, like Draupadi. He just called Krishna, called on Krishna's name, right? Called on Krishna's name. And so then, of course, Krishna, went and he killed that snake, who happened to not just be a snake. That snake happened to be a great devotee of the Lord, a demigod that was actually, that demigod had cursed some sages. And because he cursed those sages, the sages cursed him to become a snake. And so he was roaming about, right? And so, snake didn't know it's Nanda Maharaj, or maybe he did know, I don't know, because he knew Krishna would liberate him, right? Krishna would liberate him. He got liberation, or Krishna liberates the demons. So in our sangha of devotees, in our sangha, when we read the books, when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, and we hear how Krishna interacts, how he set things up, look like with Arjuna, how he set up the whole situation to listen. He listened to Arjuna through the whole 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He just listened. That's a principle of how we interact with devotees. That's a principle of how we go to Krishna, by listening. People pay thousands of dollars in America to go to workshops to listen, just to listen. So that's a skill. Krishna is teaching us that skill in Bhagavad Gita. So there's so many of these skills that are there when we look at the pastimes and we look at how Krishna interacted with different devotees, and we get to learn from that. And that's how we implement some of those skills in our devotional Sangha. Now, the reason why we might find it difficult to do that is, one, we may not be reading Srila Prabhupada's books carefully. Two, we may not be taking shelter of Krishna's holy names by really chanting with sincerity, chanting, with determination, at least, understanding that Lord Chaitanya has given us, the holy names to help to purify us of these ways that we might think that keeps us separated from each other. Three, we may not be following the principles that are there for our purification. There's several principles that are given for our purification. Four, we may not have appreciation, understanding appreciation, because we may never been trained in understanding appreciation from our families. We may not have seen that within our own family. So there's so many different reasons why we may have this disconnect. I agree with you, Kusha, that oftentimes we do see this disconnection. However, that's one of the reasons why it's important that we together, in a very caring and loving way, appreciate each other for the gifts that we do see that each other have. It's the things that we see, that as opposed to seeing what is not there, let's start seeing what is there. As opposed to seeing the glass half empty, let's start seeing the glass half full, right? What is there? It's like in one of our Sangha in South Africa, I'm teaching a course on just making observation. That's just the first component of communication. The first component is to learn to distinguish the facts from the story, right? Just see the facts. What are the facts? As opposed to the story, just making the observation of the facts. And so oftentimes, we get caught in all these different ways of minimizing each other because we're looking at all the stories as opposed to the actual fact. And we're not able to have empathy for each other, for wherever we may be, as far as our stories are concerned. Everybody has a story that they bring in Krishna consciousness, everyone. And some of those stories are not so nice, unfortunately. And that purification, when it starts going on, for us to, it's like when you mine diamonds, Ghana is a place to mine diamonds. You got to get those rough diamonds before you can really get the brilliant, shining, real diamond, right? So we're like rough diamonds, but we're being polished for sure. We're being polished. And we're polishing each other in many ways. And so, yeah, if we can somehow appreciate each other for polishing us, not always so easy to accept. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, I always share this. He used to do this with us in the beginning of the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology. He would have everyone with a little book, a little notebook, a little small book, and he would let us go to another person and ask them, what do I need to work on? What do you see that I am needing to improve in? How do you see I can move forward in my Krishna consciousness? Sometimes what they told you was not so nice. What they told us was not so nice. But we wrote it down. Sometimes we would be really hurt. And we would, it would be, especially when he hit something, Bhakti Maharaj sometimes had a thing where he didn't, like if you were senior, it wasn't like he was going to acknowledge that you're a senior and so you should be treated differently. He didn't do that. He just made you one of everybody. So you have all these new devotees telling you what you need to work on, And so, yeah, it's important to do that. He did that for us. And I can say the devotees in the Institute, they really, I can say most of them are really very mature, in understanding that we need to appreciate each other, even with all our limitations. Because yes, we may have limitations. And so it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to do. But I appreciate you sharing that, Kusha, because yeah, it's it is important that we look at that. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam where it says that Bharat Maharaj, when he was collecting flowers, twigs, and tulsi leaves, you know, he offered these things to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart, in a way where his heart was like uncontaminated, you know. And this whole pastime, I just read this little part because I remember this whole pastime of Bharat Maharaj, you know, where he just became like this personality that all he wanted was just to, you know, meditate on Krishna, just want Krishna. And to the degree that we become like that, then all of these things, other things become like insignificant, very insignificant. I mean, yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, Mother, thank you.
I know you're just doing that. I know, like I said, I know you have all the answers.
I don't know. I don't have the answers.
You're just churning my brain. I understand that.
But Mother, we appreciate the answer. It was so lovely. Thank you very much. The explanation was so, heart-touching. Very good. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mother. We let you rest 2 hours.
Yeah.
Let's not keep you. So we ask everybody to unmute yourselves, please.
Can I say one last thing? Please let us just see the beauty that we all bring. One of Krishna's opulence is beauty. And, you know, we as devotees, we may be rough around the edges. However, you know, we do have this quality of beauty, and it's this beauty is developing. You know, this diamond, although it's rough, it will show its beauty. So let's be patient with each other. Let's be kind to each other. Let's nourish each other. And know, like, yeah, some of us, the fan is just now getting out. So let's have empathy for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Please, everybody on mute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Hare.
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Wow, Kavi, you are charged up today.
I love
Chanting or the great chanting for deliverance. One can at once feel transcendental ecstasy from the spiritual status.
Thank you very much, Mother, by infecting us with all your pure love. We want to be cut at it.
Surpassing the stages of sense, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, surpassing all lower status of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. There is no need of understanding the language of the mantra, nor there is any need of mental speculation, nor any intellectual adjustment for chanting this Maha Mantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in this transcendental sound vibration without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We have seen it practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. The chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord, so that immediate effect can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotee should be avoided, as much as milk touched by the lips of a serpent causes poisonous effect. The word Hara is the form of addressing the energy of the Lord. Both Krishna and Rama are form of addressing directly the Lord, and they mean the highest pleasure eternal. Hara is the supreme pleasure potency of the Lord. This potency, when addressed as Hare, helps us in reaching the supreme Lord. The material energy called as Maya is also one of the multi-potencies of the Lord, as much as we are also marginal potency of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior energy than matter. When the superior energy is in contact with the inferior energy, it becomes an incompatible situation. But when the supreme marginal potency is in contact with spiritual potency, Hara, it becomes the happy, normal condition of living entity. The three words, namely Hara, Krishna and Rama, are transcendental seeds of the Mahamantra, and the chanting is spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, for giving protection to the conditioned soul. The chanting is exactly like genuine cry by the child for mother. Mother Hara helps in achieving the grace of the Supreme Father Hari or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to such sincere devotee. No other means, therefore, of spiritual realization is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,